Is that supposed to look like a pyramid?
It kind of does. I thought the same thing.
That's what I thought at first.
Wait, it's not a pyramid?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that knife is wrong. I thought-
No, it's just two triangles. That share a side. I use my explain how she did the bell ringer. Let's pay close attention so that way we know if there were any mistakes made, and if there was, where that mistake was made. Alright, Ivy, go ahead.
I did 58 plus 58 equals 116 because the bond and the section here. And then I did 180 minus 116 equals 64, and then I got 90 minus 64 equals 26. And then I did 180 minus 26 equals 154, and then I divided by that 2, divided that by 2, and got 37.
Thank you. Kyle, tell us, do you agree or disagree?
I do.
Yeah, very good. The only thing I would recommend is going through and writing down the angle measures as you find them. So I noticed that these two are congruent, the two sides, so that automatically means these two angles are congruent. So if this one's 58, this one's also 58. So to find this angle, you do the 58 plus 58, subtract it from 180, and you get this angle to be 64. And then these two make up a right angle, so that means they add up to 90. So to find this angle, you do 90 minus 64, which is 26. And then to get these two angles, you gotta do 180 minus 26 is 154. Oh, also, these two angles are congruent because the two legs are. The two base angles would be congruent to each other. So 180 minus 26 is 154. Divided by 2 is 77. So each of these are 77. So this angle measure is 77, so x would have to be 77. Alright, very good. Like I said, pick one angle at a time. See which angle measure they give you, and say, okay, what can I find with that angle measure? Well, you can find that one. Okay, now I have two. What can I find with that one? Now I have that one. What can I find with that angle? And you just keep going until you get to your answer. Alright, the next thing I wanted to go over was the 6.3 class assignment. There were a couple problems that I would say some people just made it a lot harder than what they were. And this was so I could see, who truly understands it and who's having trouble with it. One thing I wanted to know or point out was if it says find x, you're not going to put like degrees or centimeters or anything like that on there, because all you're trying to do is find what a variable equals, which is just a number. If they ask for the measure of an angle, then you put degrees. Okay? But if they do not ask for the measure of an angle, if they ask for you to solve for x or y, you're not going to put degrees on that. Okay. One of the ones that was super easy that a lot of people just made a lot harder than what it was. Right here you have an isosceles triangle. Since these two angles are congruent, these two sides are congruent, and since this side's 24, this side has to be equal to 24, and then you just solve. 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract 6, 3x equals 18, divide by 3, x equals 6. So the answer was x equals 6. So anytime you see something's congruent, just go ahead and put both parts, label them. Like since this one's 24 and that's congruent, that's 24. Like this one here, this is 72, therefore this is 72, and because these are congruent, so that means these two are. And then these two are already marked congruent, so if this one's 72, that one's 72. I went ahead and marked it. Since these two are congruent, so are these two, so this would be 72, and then you can find x. And then the other one, again, you just have to go through and pick out each piece of information they give you. Start at one point, right here, 14. They didn't give you any measures there. However, I noticed that all 3 of these sides are congruent, so this is an equilateral triangle. which also means it's equiangular. So it means this angle, and this angle are congruent. And then we know from our notes that all three angles have to equal 60 degrees. Well, here's a right angle, so if this side's 60, this side over here has to be 30. Okay? Now I notice these two angles are congruent, so therefore that means these two sides are congruent. Okay? So, and to find these two angles, I would do 180 minus 30, which is 150 divided by 2 is 75. So each of these angles are 75 degrees. So y would have to equal 75. Now somehow I gotta find x. Well, x is the length of this side, and I know it's congruent to this side, and this side's congruent to this side, and this side's congruent to that side, so that means x is congruent to that side. Well, this side, it doesn't give me the answer, it just says it's y minus 25. Well, that means you take whatever y is, and you subtract 25 from it. Y is 75, so you do 75 minus 25, which is 50. So this equals 50, which means x would have to equal 50. Okay. And then this last one is equiangular, therefore it's automatically equilateral. So if this side's 28, this side's 28, and this side is equal to 28, so, I can solve for y. Divide by 4, y equals 7. Okay, now here, see how this side's 28? That means these two sides are congruent, which means these two angles are congruent, so both of these would be 2x. Oh, but I don't know this angle. Well, I know this is equiangular, so that means this is 60. This is a linear pair, which means it adds up to 180. 180 minus 60 is 120, so this angle is 120. So then you just do 180 minus 120, which is 60, divide by 2, which is 30. So each of these angles is equal to 30 degrees. So 2x equals 30, divide by 2, x equals 15. Notice I did one thing at a time. Alright, now that I've done a couple of the very, very hard, I would say these right here, like those, are probably going to be like the most complicated in this section. Because not only do you have to remember about isosceles and equilateral triangles, you have to remember what congruent means, you have to remember what a linear pair is, you have to remember what complementary angles are, you have to remember the angle addition postulate. So you have to remember stuff that we covered all the way back in like chapters 2 and 3 and 1. So. All right, you can go ahead and put your bow ringer away and everything else away. All right, so if you recall, y'all picked today to get your free 10 minutes at the end of class. So about 10 minutes before class is over, I will stop you, and then you can use the last 10 minutes to either talk, play on your Chromebook, play on your phone, whatever it is you want to do that last 10 minutes. What you're going to do during class, you're going to take the chapter 6 practice test, and then you're going to hand it in to me, and then you're going to be working on your chapter 6 review on Big Ideas Math. After I finish grading your test, I'm going to give you the test analysis, and you're going to go through and fill out your test analysis. Hopefully by now we know how to do this. If there's a mark, that means you got it completely wrong, you color it red. If it says minus a half, that means you got it partially correct, so you would color it orange. And if you got it right, it's green. And then you got your correct total. Remember, it's 1 for green, 0.5 for orange, 0 for red, and then figure out your percent. While you're doing this, if you have questions, just raise your hand and I'll help. This will tell you what sections you need to study for the actual test on Friday. Now, if you make a 90% or above on the practice test, you will not be required to take the actual test on Friday. You can just take the score you made on your practice test. All right. Let's see. Sure. Hayden, can I get you to move to that back table back there with that chair? Alright, so go ahead and clear everything off your desk except for a pencil and calculator. Amy's going to the back of the seat. I get you to sit at this end of that table back there.
This one?
Back to these. Kyle, I'll get you to move to number 19, please. And Riley, can you just go back to please? Alright, read questions carefully. On numbers 1, 2, and 3, where you have to classify the triangle by its angles and by its sides. If you're not sure how to spell it, you are welcome to use the vocabulary bank that's on the back page. It has everything mixed together, but it does have like isosceles, triangle, equilateral, acute, equiangular, right, obtuse. It has those on the back in case you needed to see how to spell them, or maybe if your brain's like, I can't even think of the name of a triangle, they're all back here. Remember, no talking, keep your eyes on your own paper. When you're finished, turn it in to me, and then work on your chapter 6 review. 10,
And we made on that today.
as long as you turn it in time for me to grade it. Everybody first hour got to do their inner test analysis. One person, I was able to grade it and show them what they made, but they didn't get to do their test analysis because they didn't turn it in time. Paladin, since you're not here to do the actual practice test, you will just be working on your chapter 6 review on Big Ideas Math.
Whenever you want to say that, you want to
Like the word triangle, it's up to you. You can, you don't have to.
I think the presentation might be sound.
You want to run around so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth? Yeah, I'll get you a piece.
Easy enough to flip it back and forth.
Like when you specify the triangles for numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, that.
Yeah, you can use the word right here in case you wanted to spell it. Make sure you spell it correctly.